Greetings and salutations, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Cut&Mix, the interview show with me, Vanessa Hundley, aka DJ Audioprism. Today I have with me Rik Wayne, a local Atlanta comedian who not only runs a weekly show called Show Up and Go Up at the Earl and Rachel Smith Strand Theater, but also has great themed shows throughout the year. And I really wanted to talk to you because I've seen your Show Up Go Up show and wanted to, what was the inspiration behind your Show Up Go Up concept?
Well, it wasn't my inspiration to start off with, believe it or not. Guy I grew up with, David Roper. He started working at Strand and he pitched the idea and he got it off the ground. And the very first night that, first night of the Show Up Go Up, he had 9 people show up, and that was including bar staff. And he wound up growing it every week. More people were, getting wind of it and was coming through. And he would send me invites all the time. I was working in music. He and I had worked together in music before, and he left to go work for the Strand. So he kept sending me invites to go, and I was kind of curious, but I wasn't going. And then I told him, I said, well, look, I'll tell you what, at the beginning of the year, I'll take a Wednesday night off. I'll come down there, I'll check it off as soon as, we get past Christmas and everything. Well, as fate would have it, they shut my music store down, and I lost my job. Got the job at the Strand 3 days later, and I would keep going down there. And even at the time, I was going on Wednesdays. I wasn't theoretically working or even on the bill or anything as far as, my room or his room or our room. And my girlfriend at one point goes, why do you keep going down there? You're not getting paid. What's going on with this? And I said, I don't really know how to explain this, but I really believe this is leading towards something. So. And she said, well, all right. And within about 6 weeks, I went up, last and did really well. And then the following week, he had his first big auditorium show, and I got called to go on that show. And at that point, I had caught the bug, and I was like, this is all I want to do for the rest of my life, is just be a stand-up comic. So me and him ran it together for the next 2 years, and then he left, and then they gave it to me solely, and I've been running it for a year. Come January, it'll been my run for a full year.
Wow, that is really saying something, because in this business, events come and go just like that. And if you can't make it within 3 or 4 months, a lot of times you are cut off. So a year is a really huge milestone. Sure. And not just the weekly Show Up and Go Up, which is every Wednesday at the Earl and Rachel Smith Strand Theater. That's starting right at 7 p.m. and they go until 11 p.m. He has a really, really nice, intimate little room. But he also has these quarterly themed comedy shows that let's see, you have one for Valentine's Day.
I have Comedy Heartbreakers in February. I have Comedy Luau in July. I have Comedy Grind in September. And then I have Pranksgiving in November.
And since we are right now at the beginning of October, Pranksgiving would be that very next themed show that you should absolutely check out.
Working very hard on that right now as we speak.
Well, I am so happy to hear about all the stuff that you have coming up. I know you have other shows at this
Earl and Rachel Smith Strand Theater.
That thing, yes. So talking more about your themed shows, what kind of cover do people expect to pay when they come in?
We started out doing $5 at first, but then we felt like the amount of talent that we were getting in on that stage, we could raise the price up to $10 and nobody would complain. And so I'd say for the last year and a half we've been doing it for $10. We don't really feel like going any higher. It's a 533 seat auditorium. And over the last 2 shows, I have filled over half of the auditorium, with it. So I don't feel like it's a bad price point to try to get people in.
No, not at all. Not at all. It's definitely a good date night. And, the historic Earl and Rachel Smith Strand Theater is in downtown Marietta. So you can make a whole full evening of it, just even walking around, checking out the local ambiance. Checking out some places you might actually be familiar with from movies, because downtown Marietta is very, very popular for filming. And there's, of course, many, many great restaurants. So
Absolutely.
You can eat, you can play, you can walk, you do all kinds of stuff. Now, as most entertainers, we all have a variety of interests, and you've also been the host of Pod Vomit, a very successful podcast.
That's right. Me and my friend Justin Beals, we have been doing Pod Vomit for about 8 years, off and on. It's not always an ongoing thing because he has his band Jackwagon and I do stand-up comedy, so we kind of look at it in the sense of when we have time we will put it together. But we've done over probably 60 shows. We got together doing that. That's kind of how this whole thing sort of started, was just being a podcaster. And we were a very fringe podcast. You know, we talked to anybody from swingers to strippers to porn stars to rappers, actors, you name it. But at the same time, we also would just have, you know, shows about Marvel versus DC, or, you know, what we thought about the new Star Wars movie, or just stuff that happened to us, you know, and turn it into a whole show. But Pod Bombing is still in existence. It just doesn't have the, you know, it just doesn't have the legs that it did when we first started, just because we both have separate projects. So
right.
We kind of look at it like Cheech and Chong. Cheech and Chong's always been a comedian, you know, pair, but they do other things outside of just their main thing. So,
right.
You know, when we get an opportunity, we do. We actually have several shows in the can right now that we still need to put out. So, but
wow.
Yep, that we've been doing Pod Bombing for quite some time.
And where can people find your archives?
Well, we're on iTunes. You can find us on SoundCloud, and you know, pretty much SoundCloud is our base. Mm-hmm. You know, we did have our own website for a while, but we just kind of, you know, let that go, and we figured it was just easier to do it off a podcasting site. So primarily iTunes and SoundCloud is where you can just Google us. We're pretty much everywhere. We're on Facebook and, you know, Twitter and Instagram too. So, you know, all the links to the shows are somewhere on there. It's not hard to find us. Yes. Some people probably wish it was.
Well, not for the faint of heart,
no.
But, you know, definitely for the strong of soul. All right, well, before we let you go, what, besides Pranksgiving and your weekly show, do you have any other upcoming public shows? For
I do. I've got a monthly show that I do for Red Hair Brewing. Red Hair is a brewing company that makes beer here locally in Marietta.
Good stuff.
I've been doing shows for them since the beginning of the summer. I hope they will continue me all the way till December. We do have an October, and crossing my fingers for a November show. And then I've been doing Pontoon Brewing, and then I also hit Laughing Skull, Punchline, and anybody else that will have me. I've done Comedy Zone out in the Carolinas, and I've done places out in Alabama and Tennessee. So I'm trying to get out a little farther, but right now I've been really focused on Strand stuff and Red Hair stuff.
Well, he definitely is up for traveling, so if you need to bring Rik Wayne out to your show, he is available. And how would people get in touch with you?
Well, you can find me on all kinds of social media platforms. I'm on Facebook as Rik Wayne, and then I also have my stand-up comic name, Nickelbag Rik. I'm also on Instagram, and I'm also on Twitter, and you know, you can even email me at rikwayne1@gmail and find me there, ask me questions, invite me to come do your next event for comedy. It's not going to be clean, but I am available.
Hey, you know, cheeky fits in somewhere anyway. And again, guys, that's Rik Wayne, R-I-K,
that's
not
right.
R-I-C-K. It's Rik with no C. So we have Rik Wayne, rikwayne1@gmail.com. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, so much for joining us on the Cut and Mix. This episode is now a wrap.